The distress signal crackled through the speakers of the human warship for 3 days before anyone took it seriously. Captain Marcus Sullivan was sitting in the observation deck when Communications Officer Linda Martinez approached him with the data. The signal came from Kepler Prime, a small human colony on the edge of explored space. Marcus had never been there, but he knew the colony held about 2,000 people, families, children, scientists and workers trying to build a new home among the stars. "We have tried to reach them on all standard frequencies," Linda said, her voice filled with worry. "Nothing but this repeating beacon. It just keeps saying they need help." Marcus stood and walked to the window. The stars stretched out before him in all directions. Space was vast and empty and unforgiving. He had spent 20 years commanding ships through this emptiness. He had seen wonders that would make poets weep. He had also seen horrors that would make soldiers scream. The galaxy was not a friendly place for humans. "How long until we reach them?" Marcus asked. 4 days at maximum speed, sir," Linda replied. "But Captain, there is a problem. We would be entering Zithian territory. The Zithian Empire controls this entire sector. No human ships have ever crossed their borders and returned. Command will never approve this mission." Marcus nodded slowly. He understood the risk. The Zithian Empire was the most powerful military force in the known galaxy. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. Their warriors were legendary. Their technology was centuries ahead of humanity. The idea of a human ship entering their space was suicide. Every protocol and every regulation said he should report the signal and wait for the Alliance to decide what to do. But Marcus had never been very good at following orders when lives were at stake. "How many crew members do we have on this ship?" he asked. 350 souls, Captain," Linda answered. Marcus turned from the window and looked directly at his communications officer. "Send a message to the colony on an encrypted channel. Tell them we are coming. Tell them to prepare for emergency evacuation if possible. And Linda, do not send this report to Alliance Command." "Not yet." Linda's eyes widened. She understood what he was asking. She was asking her to disobey direct orders from the Terran Alliance. She was asking her to help him risk the lives of everyone on this ship. She was asking her to participate in what could be called mutiny. "Sir, I cannot do this," Linda said softly. "I know," Marcus replied. "That is why I will do it myself. Go about your normal duties. When this is over, you can tell Command that I acted against your advice. You can tell them I forced you to comply. You will be protected." Linda looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded once and turned to leave. But before she reached the door, she stopped and spoke without turning around. "The encryption key for the colony is in the system. You will need it to reach them on a secure channel." Then she was gone, leaving Marcus alone with the weight of his decision. Over the next 12 hours, Marcus prepared the ship for the journey. He did not tell his entire crew the truth. He told them there was a possible distress signal in a nearby sector and that they were going to investigate it. Most of the crew accepted this without question. They trusted their captain. They knew he would not lead them into danger without cause. But his first officer, Commander Robert Hayes, was not so easily fooled. Robert had served with Marcus for 5 years. He knew how Marcus thought. He knew when Marcus was being evasive. He confronted the captain in the ready room just as the ship was preparing to jump to faster than light speed. "You are going to Zithian territory," Robert said without preamble. "The colony on Kepler Prime is in Zithian space. You know this. You have read the reports like I have read them." Marcus did not try to deny it. "The colony sent a distress signal. They need help." "The colony is likely already dead," Robert said bluntly. "The Zithians do not tolerate human presence in their sector. If the signal is real, then the colony has already been destroyed or conquered. Going there will only result in the destruction of this ship and the death of everyone aboard." "Possibly," Marcus agreed. "But we will not know unless we go. And if there is even a chance that people are alive down there, we have a duty to try." Robert studied his captain's face for a long moment. Then he sighed deeply. "I knew you would say that. I have already prepared the crew. Emergency protocols are in place. We have routed power to the shields. The weapon systems are on standby. If we encounter Zithian forces, we will not go quietly into the darkness." Marcus felt a surge of gratitude for his first officer. "Thank you, Robert." "Do not thank me yet," Robert replied. "We are probably all going to die. I just wanted to make sure we die with our heads up instead of running with our tails between our legs. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, and they began the journey toward Kepler Prime. The voyage lasted 4 days, and during that time the crew worked in tense silence. Everyone knew by then that they were heading into Zethian space. Everyone understood the danger, but no one asked to turn back. Human soldiers had a code. You did not leave your own behind. You did not walk away from those who needed help. You stood and fought and died if necessary. On the 5th day, they emerged from faster than light speed near the Kepler Prime system. What they saw made everyone on the bridge go silent. The colony was still there. The structures were intact. The lights were on, but orbiting the planet were 5 massive Zethian warships. Each one was the size of a small moon. Their hulls gleamed with metallic gold and purple. They were the most beautiful and most terrifying things Marcus had ever seen. All ships have locked weapons on us. The tactical officer, a young woman named Grace Wilson, reported in a shaky voice. We are being hailed on all frequencies. Put it on the main screen, Marcus commanded. A face appeared before them. It was a Zethian, and Marcus had never seen anything like it. The being was stunning and horrible at the same time. Her skin shimmered between shades of purple and silver. She had 4 arms. Her eyes glowed with an inner light that seemed to pierce through the screen and into Marcus's very soul. She wore armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal, changing colors as she moved. I am Queen Lyra of the Zethian Empire, the being said, and her voice was like music and thunder combined. You have entered my space without permission. This is an act of aggression. You have one opportunity to explain yourselves before I order the destruction of your vessel. Marcus took a deep breath and stood from his command chair. He knew what he had to say. He knew it might be a death sentence. But he also knew that sometimes honesty was the only weapon humans had against the vast power of the universe. I am Captain Marcus Sullivan of the human fleet, he said, speaking directly to the camera. We received a distress signal from the human colony on Kepler Prime. We came to investigate and to offer aid if needed. We meant no aggression against your empire. We simply came to save our people. There was a long silence. Marcus could see the Queen's expression change, though he could not read the emotions behind it. Finally, she spoke again. Bring your ship to the coordinates I am transmitting. You and a small team will beam down to my palace. If you are lying to me, Captain, I will destroy your ship and everyone aboard it. If you are telling the truth, you may live to see another day. Choose quickly. The screen went black. The coordinates appeared on their navigation display. Marcus and Robert looked at each other. They both knew this was likely a trap, but they also knew they had no choice. They had come too far to turn back now. I am going down there, Marcus said to Robert. You have the bridge. If I do not return in 1 hour, get this ship out of here. Get everyone to safety. That is an order. Robert wanted to argue, but he knew it would be useless. Marcus had already made his decision. Instead, Robert simply nodded and began preparing the beam down sequence. The transport beam dissolved Marcus's body into pure energy and reconstructed him in a chamber that took his breath away. The walls were made of something that looked like crystallized light. They glowed softly, shifting between shades of violet and gold. The floor beneath his feet was smooth and warm, almost alive. Standing before him were a dozen Zethian guards. Each one was massively tall and heavily armed. They wore armor that seemed to shift and change, adapting to their movements. Their weapons looked like nothing Marcus had ever seen before. He knew immediately that his old Earth guns would be useless against technology like this. 2 officers approached him. One was male, his skin a deep blue with silver markings. The other was female, her skin a brilliant shade of green that seemed to pulse with an internal rhythm. They both towered over Marcus by more than 1.5 feet. The male officer gestured with one of his 4 arms. Come with us, human, the male officer said. His voice was deep and resonant. The Queen is waiting for you. Marcus did not resist. He was outnumbered and outgunned in every possible way. Fighting would be suicide. His only chance was to try to reason with this Queen Lyra. He had to make her understand that humans meant no threat to her vast empire. He had to convince her to release the colony. They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The palace was enormous, far larger than any building Marcus had ever seen. The walls were decorated with artwork that he found both beautiful and unsettling. Some paintings showed the conquest of alien worlds. Others displayed Zethian history stretching back thousands of years. Some showed scenes of terrible battles where entire civilizations had been destroyed. This was a species that had built their empire on war and conquest. Finally, they reached a massive set of doors. They stood at least 30 feet tall and appeared to be made of some kind of solid gold. The doors swung open silently, and Marcus was led into a throne room that defied description. The ceiling rose so high that it seemed to touch the sky itself. A river of light flowed across the floor, beautiful and strange. And at the far end of the chamber, sitting on a throne that looked carved from a single piece of crystal, was Queen Lyra. She was more stunning in person than she had been on the screen. Her skin glowed with a luminescence that seemed to come from within. Her 4 eyes, 2 above 2, all glowed with an inner fire. She wore robes that flowed like water, colored in shades of purple and gold and silver. She was absolutely regal and absolutely dangerous. Marcus understood immediately that this was a being of immense power. She was not just a military commander. She was something more. She was royalty in the truest sense. Queen Lyra rose from her throne and descended the steps toward Marcus. With each step, she seemed to grow larger in his perception. She circled him, studying him with those glowing eyes. Her 4 arms moved with grace, and Marcus noticed that her fingernails seemed to be made of some kind of metallic substance. "You are small," she said finally. "Fragile. Your technology is primitive compared to what we possess, and yet you came into my space knowing that I could destroy you with a thought. Why would you do this?" Marcus met her gaze, even though looking into those glowing eyes was uncomfortable. "Because my people are in danger. Because we do not leave our own behind. Because that is what we do. That is what makes us human." The Queen's expression changed. She tilted her head, a gesture that seemed alien but somehow also universal. "You would risk death for people you do not even know?" "They are from my world," Marcus said. "They are my responsibility. My people have this idea that we are all connected, that we have a duty to protect each other. I know it probably sounds foolish to a civilization as advanced as yours." The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke to one of her officers in her own language. It was a beautiful language, full of harmonics and layered tones that human vocal cords could not produce. The officer nodded and left the chamber. Lyra gestured toward a smaller chair, and servants brought it forward for Marcus. "Sit," she commanded. Marcus sat. The chair was comfortable, though scaled for a much larger being. His feet did not touch the ground. "Your colony has been integrated into the Zithian Empire," Queen Lyra explained. "The humans there are being treated better than most conquered species. They are alive. They are safe. They are working in research facilities and agricultural programs. They have food. They have shelter. They are not suffering." "They are not free," Marcus replied. "Freedom is an illusion," the Queen said. "Even on your world, freedom is limited. You have laws. You have governments. You have responsibilities. Freedom is simply a matter of perspective. Where I come from, we call that slavery with extra steps," Marcus said. Then he realized how rude that sounded. "Forgive me, Your Majesty. I did not mean to be disrespectful." To his surprise, the Queen made a sound that might have been laughter. "You are honest. I appreciate that. Most beings who stand before me are terrified. They flatter and bow and grovel. You speak your mind, even knowing that I could have you executed with a gesture. Would you?" Marcus asked. "Execute me for honesty?" "No," the Queen said. "I would not. I have grown tired of the company of those who only tell me what they think I wish to hear. You are different. You are interesting, Marcus Sullivan. That is rare." At that moment, the officer returned to the chamber with another figure. It was a human woman with dark hair and intelligent eyes. She looked tired, as though she had been through an ordeal. Her name was Rebecca Green, and she was the administrator of the Kepler Prime colony. "Captain Sullivan," Rebecca said, relief flooding her voice. "I cannot tell you how glad I am to see you. We received your message that you were coming. We have been trying to hide supplies and coordinates for an evacuation. The Queen has permitted me to speak with you." "Are you all right?" Marcus asked. "Has anyone been hurt?" "We are fine," Rebecca assured him. "The Zithians have kept their word. They said we would not be harmed if we cooperated. We have been putting people to work on various projects, but no one has been tortured or killed. Given the circumstances, it could have been much worse." Queen Lyra watched this exchange with obvious interest. "You see, Captain Sullivan? Your people are well. They are safe. They could be much worse off if they lived in certain regions of my empire. Some species I have conquered are treated far more harshly." "I appreciate that," Marcus said. But I would still like to negotiate for their release. Surely there is something humanity could offer in trade. Technology, resources, something of value. The Queen stood and walked closer to Marcus. She was so tall that when she stood before his chair, her waist was at the level of his face. You want to negotiate with me? Do you have any idea how many civilizations have tried to negotiate with me? Do you know how many have offered me technology and resources? Everything you could possibly offer I already have in abundance. I do not need anything from humanity. Then why not let them go? Marcus asked. Because, the Queen said slowly, I do not feel like it. They are part of my empire now. That is the end of the matter. She turned away and climbed the steps back to her throne. She sat and looked down at Marcus with her glowing eyes. But you, Captain Sullivan, you interest me. You are going to remain here. You will be treated well and given comfortable quarters. We will speak again. I wish to learn more about your kind. Perhaps you will prove to be more valuable than your entire colony. Marcus started to protest, but guards appeared and escorted him away before he could say another word. As he was led through the corridors, he could hear the Queen's voice echoing behind him. She had sounded almost amused by his defiance. He did not know if that was a good thing or a death sentence. He only knew that he had been separated from his people, and now he was at the mercy of an alien queen who held the fate of thousands in her hands. The quarters assigned to Marcus were far nicer than any prison cell. The room was large and open, with walls that could display any image he wished to see. He could project forests or oceans or cities from his memories. There was a bed that adjusted to his body shape, a luxury he had not experienced in years. The bathroom was filled with water as hot as he wanted. Fresh food appeared regularly, though he had no idea how it was being prepared or delivered to him. But none of these comforts could hide the fact that he was still a prisoner. Guards stood outside his door at all times. When he tried to leave his quarters, they blocked his way with calm but absolute firmness. He was locked in a gilded cage, comfortable but imprisoned nonetheless. On the third day of his captivity, Marcus was taken to meet with Queen Lyra again. This time the setting was different. Instead of the grand throne room, they met in what appeared to be a private study. The walls were lined with what looked like books, though they were made of materials Marcus did not recognize. Light sources floated in the air, providing illumination without any visible means of support. The Queen sat in a large chair and gestured for Marcus to sit across from her. Tell me about your world, she commanded. Tell me about Earth, tell me about the humans. Marcus began to speak. He told her about Earth's mountains and oceans. He described forests and deserts. He talked about human culture, about art and music and literature. He told her about human history, about the wars humanity had fought and the peace they had struggled to build. He described human emotions and human dreams. Queen Lyra listened without interrupting. Her 4 eyes never left his face. She seemed fascinated by everything he said. She asked questions that showed she was genuinely interested in understanding humanity, not just conquering it. On your world, do all humans live together peacefully? She asked. No, Marcus admitted. We have conflict. We have wars. Different groups of humans fight each other over territory and resources and ideas. It is one of our greatest failings. And yet you came to rescue people you did not know, Lyra observed. You risked your life and the lives of your crew to save members of your own species. Even though you fight among yourselves, you are willing to die for each other. This is unusual, is it? Marcus asked. In your empire, do your people not show loyalty to each other? Loyalty is a tool of control, the Queen replied. My military is loyal because they fear me, and because I provide them with power and resources. Scientists serve me because they fear me and because they desire knowledge. Workers labor for me because they fear me and because they need to survive. Fear and self-interest bind my empire together. Love, as you humans call it, is a weakness that only the weak species indulge in. Maybe that is why your empire rules through fear, Marcus said carefully. Maybe if you built it on something other than fear, you would not need to conquer and control so much. The Queen stood abruptly. Marcus braced himself, expecting anger. Instead, she walked to the window and gazed out at her palace grounds. Her massive form seemed to dwarf the landscape beyond. You have courage, she said without turning around. You speak to me as though I am not a being of immense power. You challenge my worldview. Most would never dare. They would tell me what they think I wish to hear. I thought you said you were tired of that, Marcus replied. The Queen turned to face him, and there was something different in her expression. It was not anger. It was something more complex, something Marcus could not quite identify. I am. You interest me, Marcus Sullivan. You challenge me intellectually. You make me think about things I have not considered in centuries. This is pleasant. She approached him and reached out one of her 4 hands. She placed it gently on his shoulder. Her hand was warm and Marcus could feel the power beneath her touch. She could crush him like an insect if she wished. Instead, she was being careful with him. She was being almost gentle. I want you to understand something, she said, her voice softer than before. I did not become queen through kindness or mercy. I became queen through strength and cunning. I conquered my enemies. I dominated lesser species. I built an empire that spans hundreds of worlds. Everything you see around you is built on power and control. But I am tired, Marcus. I am tired of the endless conquest. I am tired of the fear that surrounds me. Everyone who comes near me is afraid. Everyone wants something from me. No one wants to simply spend time with me to understand me as more than just a ruler. Marcus understood what she was saying. She was lonely. Despite all her power and all her empire, the queen was fundamentally alone. She had no equals, no one she could talk to as a peer, no one she could trust. You do not have to be lonely, Marcus said. You can change how you rule. You can show mercy. You can build something better. Perhaps, the queen mused, or perhaps I am simply old and weak and romanticizing the weakness of other species. Perhaps I simply find novelty in you because you are different. But despite her words, she did not move her hand from his shoulder, and Marcus noticed that she did not summon the guards to take him away. Instead, they continued to talk for hours. The queen asked him more questions about humanity and Earth. Marcus asked her about Zithian culture and history. The conversation flowed naturally, like 2 old friends who had not seen each other in years. When night fell and the sun outside the windows dimmed, the queen finally stood and signaled that their time together was ending. You will return to your quarters, she said. Tomorrow I wish to continue our conversation. We have much more to discuss. As Marcus was being escorted away by guards, he heard the queen call after him. Captain Sullivan, one more thing. I have decided to permit your crew members to send a message to your ship. I do not want your people to think that you have been killed. Tell them you are safe and being treated well. Tell them to remain in orbit and wait for my decision. I will permit negotiations to proceed. Marcus felt a surge of hope. The queen was willing to negotiate. Perhaps there was a way out of this situation. Perhaps he could save the colony after all. But as he lay in his comfortable prison that night, he wondered what price the queen would demand for their release. In his experience, power never gave away anything for free. There was always a cost. The only question was whether Marcus would be willing to pay it. Days turned into weeks. Marcus continued to meet with Queen Lyra regularly. Their conversations became the center of his existence. He learned about her history. She had been born into royalty, the daughter of the previous Zithian emperor. She had been groomed for power from birth. She had studied military strategy and political manipulation. She had learned to rule through strength and fear. But in their private conversations, Marcus glimpsed a different side of her. He saw the being beneath the crown. He saw her doubts and her weariness and her longing for something more meaningful than conquest. The queen began to show Marcus parts of her palace that few people were ever allowed to see. She took him to her private gardens where plants from dozens of conquered worlds grew in carefully maintained environments. She showed him her library, which contained knowledge spanning thousands of years of Zithian history. She introduced him to her personal scientific advisors, brilliant beings who conducted research into physics and biology and technology. During one of these visits to the library, a young Zithian officer interrupted their time together. She had violet skin with silver markings across her face. Her eyes glowed with urgency and concern. My queen, the officer said, bowing respectfully. I bring troubling news. There is a faction within the military leadership that questions your commitment to the Empire. They say you have become soft. They say you spend too much time with the human prisoner, and not enough time attending to matters of state. Some are openly discussing challenging your authority. Queen Lyra's expression darkened. Marcus could see her shift from the thoughtful, almost peaceful being he had come to know into something more dangerous. The queen stood and her forearms tensed with obvious power. Who leads this rebellion? She demanded. General Koresh and his supporters, the officer replied. They control approximately a third of the military forces. They are not yet ready to strike, but they are gathering strength and support among the lower ranks. They believe you are distracted. They believe now is the time to challenge your rule. Marcus felt his stomach drop. He understood immediately what was happening. His presence was causing problems for the Queen. His relationship with her was being used as evidence that she was weak, and if those who opposed her found an opportunity to strike, they might use his presence as justification for deposing her. "Leave us," the Queen commanded the officer. When they were alone again, she turned to Marcus. "You understand what you have heard. Because of me spending time with you, I am now vulnerable to challenge. My own military is questioning my strength. This is the danger of connection, Marcus. This is why I ruled through fear for so long. Fear keeps people in line. Connection makes you weak." "I am sorry," Marcus said. "I never wanted to cause you trouble. I should not have come here. I should not have risked meeting with you." "No," the Queen said sharply. "This is not your fault. This is my empire. These are my problems to solve. If my own generals believe they can challenge me, then I must remind them exactly what I am capable of." For the first time, Marcus saw true fear in the Queen's 4 eyes. She was afraid, not of General Koresh or his rebellion, but of losing the connection she had built with Marcus. She was afraid that to maintain her throne, she would have to push him away. She would have to go back to being the cold, distant ruler she had been before. "Let me help," Marcus said impulsively. "How could you possibly help?" the Queen asked. "You are human. You are fragile and weak compared to Zithian warriors." "I do not know yet," Marcus admitted, "but I'm good at strategy. I have trained soldiers and led them through difficult situations. Let me talk to your military advisors. Let me try to understand what Koresh wants. Maybe there is a way to prevent open conflict. Maybe there is a way to satisfy the rebels without you having to resort to violence and fear." The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she made a decision that shocked everyone in her palace. She brought Marcus into the military planning chambers. She introduced him to her generals and her strategists. She told them that he would be assisting her in developing new strategies for the empire. The generals were horrified. A human? Advising on military matters? It was insulting. It was a sign of weakness. But the Queen's word was law, and if she wanted a human helping with strategy, then a human would help with strategy. Over the next week, Marcus studied the Zithian military structure. He spoke with dozens of officers. He reviewed records of successful campaigns and failed ones. He began to understand how the Zithian Empire actually functioned. What he discovered was that General Koresh was not wrong about some things. The military had been stretched thin trying to maintain control over so many conquered worlds. Resources were being misallocated. Soldiers were becoming restless. There were legitimate grievances among the ranks. Marcus developed a proposal. He suggested that instead of constantly conquering new worlds, the Zithian military should focus on consolidating their current holdings. He suggested creating better systems for resource distribution. He suggested implementing educational programs for soldiers, so they would feel that they had opportunities for advancement beyond just military combat. He suggested that the empire could be stronger and more stable through less aggressive expansion. When Marcus presented these ideas to Queen Lyra, she studied them carefully. "This proposal would fundamentally change how my empire operates," she said. "It would require me to accept that aggressive conquest is not the best path forward. It would mean admitting that there is merit to what the rebels are saying. How could I do this without appearing weak?" "You do not appear weak," Marcus explained. "You appear strong enough to adapt and change. You appear wise enough to listen to new perspectives. You appear evolved enough to move beyond simple conquest. That is not weakness, Your Majesty. That is the strength of a true leader." The Queen considered his words. Then she made a decision. She called together all the major military commanders and presented Marcus's proposals to them. She did not say they were from a human prisoner. She presented them as her own evolved vision for the future of the Zithian Empire. To everyone's surprise, the generals responded well to the proposals. They recognized the merit in the ideas. They saw that these suggestions would actually make the military more effective and stable. General Koresh and his supporters found themselves unable to argue against the Queen's new strategies. They had wanted to paint her as weak and unfocused. Instead, she demonstrated strategic brilliance and adaptability. Within days, the rebellion dissipated. General Koresh and his followers fell back into line. The military hierarchy stabilized. and Queen Lyra emerged from the crisis stronger than ever. She had not needed to execute anyone. She had not needed to resort to fear and violence. She had solved the problem through intelligence and adaptation. That night, the Queen came to Marcus's quarters personally. She had never done this before. She came alone, without guards. "You saved my throne," she said simply. "You gave me a way to maintain my authority without the cost of civil war. You showed me that there is another path forward. I do not know what I will do with you now, Marcus Sullivan, but I know that I cannot let you go." Months passed. Marcus had lost track of time. He did not know if it had been 3 months or 6 months or a year. In the Queen's palace, time seemed meaningless. Days blended into nights. The palace existed in a state of artificial day that never truly changed. The only measure of time was the conversations he had with Queen Lyra and the gradual transformation of the Zithian Empire. The Queen implemented Marcus's suggestions throughout her military. She established educational programs. She reorganized resource distribution. She began to reduce aggressive military expansion. Word of these changes spread throughout the empire. Some populations saw it as a sign that the Queen was becoming weak. Others saw it as a sign of strength and wisdom. The empire remained stable, and the rebellions that some predicted never materialized. During this time, Marcus watched the Queen change as well. She began to smile more. She seemed lighter somehow, less burdened by the weight of absolute power. She invited Marcus to attend official state dinners. She introduced him to ambassadors from other species. She began to present him to the galaxy as an advisor and strategist, not as a prisoner. But there was something else happening too. Something deeper and more personal. Marcus realized that his feelings for the Queen were changing. It had started as respect and admiration, but over time it had evolved into something more. He was falling in love with this alien being who was so different from him, and yet so similar in the ways that mattered. She was intelligent and powerful and lonely. She was learning to be vulnerable. She was discovering what it meant to care about someone other than herself. One day, the Queen summoned Marcus to her private chambers. This was unusual. They typically met in her study or took walks through the palace gardens. Her private chambers were a place no one was ever invited except her most trusted advisors, and Marcus had never been allowed inside. The chamber was breathtaking. The walls were made of some kind of translucent crystal that showed the stars beyond. It was as though they were standing among the cosmos itself. The floor glowed softly, casting everything in shades of blue and violet. There was a massive bed scaled for the Queen's size and furniture carved from materials that looked like frozen moonlight. "I have made a decision," the Queen said. She stood by the window looking out at the stars. "Your people want to know your fate. Your Captain Hayes has sent messages requesting that I release you in the colony. She says there is a human ceremony called marriage, where two people commit to spending their lives together. She wants to know if I'm holding you because I intend to harm you, or because I have other reasons." Marcus felt his heart racing. He had not thought about the ship or about Captain Hayes in a long time. He had been so immersed in his life here that the outside galaxy had seemed distant and unreal. "What do you want to do?" Marcus asked carefully. "I want you to decide," the Queen said, turning to face him. "You have been my prisoner and my advisor and my friend. I have come to care for you, Marcus. In my own way, I love you. But I will not keep you here against your will. The choice is yours. You can return to your people. You can go back to Earth and live among your own kind. Or you can stay here with me, not as a prisoner but as something else, as an equal partner, as a companion, as my mate if you will have me." Marcus looked at this magnificent alien queen. He thought about the woman he had left behind on Earth. He thought about his duty to his people and his ship. He thought about everything he would be giving up if he chose to stay. But he also thought about the connection he had built with this being. He thought about her loneliness and her strength. He thought about the changes she was making to her empire because of his influence. He thought about the future they could build together, two different species learning from each other and growing together. "I need to talk to my crew," Marcus said. "I need to explain to them what I want to do. But Lyra, I think you already know my answer." The Queen's expression brightened. All 4 of her eyes seemed to glow more brightly. "Then let us contact your ship. Let us tell them that you are safe. Let us arrange a meeting so you can speak to your people. And Marcus, I have another gift for you. I am releasing the colony on Kepler Prime. They are no longer Zithian subjects. They are free to return to human space if they wish. I am doing this not because I fear your people, but because I wish to prove to you that I am capable of mercy and compassion. I wish to build bridges between our species, not walls of conquest." Hours later, Marcus was standing in a communication chamber, speaking to Captain Hayes through a video link. The captain's face was a mixture of shock and relief. "Sullivan, thank God you are alive," Hayes said. "We have been monitoring communications and trying to figure out what happened to you. The Queen released all the colonists this morning with supplies and coordinates for human space. They are safe. Everyone made it." "I know," Marcus replied. "The Queen made that decision. Captain, I have something to tell you and I want you to listen to me completely before you respond." Marcus explained everything. He told Hayes about his meetings with the Queen. He told her about the changes in the Zithian Empire. He told her that the Queen had offered him a choice to return home or stay. And he told her that he had decided to stay. There was a long silence on the other end of the transmission. Hayes seemed to be processing what she was hearing. Finally, she spoke. "Are you sure about this, Captain? These are the most powerful beings in the galaxy. If they betray you, if this is some kind of trap, there is nothing we can do to help you." "I know," Marcus said, "but I believe in what I have seen here. I believe the Queen is genuine. And I believe that humanity benefits from having a bridge to the Zithian Empire. What if we could establish peace between our species? What if we could learn from each other instead of fighting? That is worth the risk." "Then I will report this to command," Hayes said. "But Marcus, know this. Whatever happens, Earth will recognize you as a hero. You opened a door that humanity did not even know existed. You made a choice to follow your heart, and in doing so you may have changed the course of history for both our species. I hope the Queen knows how lucky she is to have you." When the communication ended, Marcus turned to find Queen Lyra standing in the doorway. She had heard the entire conversation. She approached him slowly, and this time Marcus did not hesitate. He reached up and placed his small human hand against her massive cheek. She lowered herself, bringing her face closer to his. "Welcome to your new life, Marcus Sullivan," she said softly. "I promise you will not regret this choice." And as Marcus looked into her glowing eyes, surrounded by the vastness of space and the grandeur of an alien palace, he realized that Captain Hayes was right. He had changed history, but more importantly, he had found something that transcended species and biology and empire. He had found love among the stars, and that was worth more than all the power and conquest in the galaxy.